Hi everyone, and welcome back. Ontario versus British Columbia during this pandemic. But first, I want to thank each and every one who's subscribed to this channel. And I'd like to encourage those who watch the videos and like them to also subscribe. Now getting on with it. Ontario, that's a place I spent 68 years of my life, from the time I was born till just a year ago. I've always thought Ontario was one of the best provinces in all of Canada, and in some ways it still is. You know, they're probably further ahead in Ontario, technically, than most other places in the country. There are some things though, since this whole thing started about a year and 4 months ago, that make me really glad that I'm not in Ontario anymore. I'll admit I didn't want to leave Ontario all that badly. It's a province where my family is, my sons, my father, my mother, my sisters, my brothers, and some friends as well. And so, you know, when you're leaving your sons behind, when you're leaving people that you know behind and moving to a place where the only people you know are your wife and your son, and starting all over basically, it's quite a step. But do I regret leaving Ontario? I have to admit at first I did. But this past year, the way things have been locked down in Ontario, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse as the time goes by, I don't regret one little bit being out of there, other than, like I say, I miss some people. Some important people at that. But I think I'd have a hard time living in Ontario right now with all of the rules and the regulations. I phone my dad every couple of weeks. Now my dad's 97 years old, and check to see how he's doing, how the rest of the family are doing. And you know, he tells me that you can't even go to the store and buy anything other than groceries right now. I had mentioned that we had gone down and bought some soil for Merlin's flower beds outside here in British Columbia, city of Vancouver. And he said, we can't do that here. He said, unless you're buying groceries, something that they figure is really essential, you just can't buy it. So, you know, that really is a rough way to have to live. I know that my son, where he works, it's a place where I used to work too. Right now I believe they're making people wear masks while they're at work, making people, probably some of them, wear shields. That's got to be an uncomfortable way to go through a shift, especially when you're looking at 12-hour shifts like a lot of factories are these days. So, you know, I guess it's almost a year since we moved to British Columbia. But in that past year, I've grown to like it here a whole lot more. And at first, I looked for every little thing to nitpick and not like about the province, not like about Vancouver. But really, if I'm honest, it's a pretty nice place. I do miss Ontario like the winters, the snow, the 4 seasons basically. If you take a look at the way the seasons work in Ontario, probably the spring and the fall are the nicest, but it's nice to have all 4 seasons. Right here in British Columbia, at least in the Vancouver area, we basically have 2 seasons. We have the rainy season where it's a little cooler, and we have the dry season where it's a little warmer, but the temperature really is very much more, how would you put it? The climate is a lot more even than it is in Ontario. We have some of the best scenery in the world. It's actually really nice to see the mountains every time you go out the door. You can hardly look in any direction as you're traveling around and not see mountains or lakes. So it is really quite pretty here. And with the amount of rain that we get, vegetation is usually quite green. So it's a pretty place to live. And really, when it comes to the lockdowns and everything, we've had so much more freedom here than they do in Ontario that I don't regret leaving one little bit, because frankly, when I think back over this past year and the things that we did, some of them are in these videos here, we really don't even seem to feel like there was any kind of restrictions at all. What we do have in British Columbia is if we go into a bank or into a store, we have to stick a mask on. If we go on public transit like a bus or a train, we have to put a mask on. But once you get off of that, once you get out of the store or out of the bank and just are out on the street, you can take them back off and go around like it's pretty much normal. I think really, looking back over the past year, some of the videos that I took, some of the places we've been, if I was in Ontario, I'd be in a miserable mood, but looking at the things we did here really makes me quite happy that I'm in British Columbia. I like the way the government's handling things out here during this whole time when people are so careful and so cautious, and where the governments are laying out what you can and can't do. We've actually had it pretty good here. I know if I look at just the amount of freedom we have, we're pretty blessed. Does all of this make me like British Columbia a whole lot more than I thought I would? Yeah, I think it does. I really think if I'd have moved here and they still had the freedoms in Ontario, they still could do everything that we could do in Ontario, that I'd be saying, yeah, I miss the place. But when we're dealing with the kind of government that Ontario has right now, and I know they think they're doing the right thing. I'm certain that they think they're doing the right thing, but they're killing the province. There has to be a better way. I mean, if they're going to protect the elderly, that's fine, but keep the businesses open. Find a way to keep businesses open. People have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into building up a business for themselves. They've gone deep in debt to do that, and then the government lays out rules that destroy everything they've worked for. So, at least in British Columbia, they're trying to do all they can to keep the businesses going. At this particular time, we can't go and sit in a restaurant and have a meal. We could a month ago. What we can do, however, is we can go sit on a patio at that same restaurant and have our meal out on the patio. So there are ways around this closing things down. Anyhow, This is just kind of my little take on the differences between the two provinces right now. I hope they get things back on track in Ontario. I hope they open things back up. I hope that they get the pandemic under control. If that's, if that's the real goal, then get the thing under control and open it up so that people can have a life again. Anyhow, I just want to thank each and every one of you who have dropped by to watch this video. I hope that you liked some of the things I've said. If you feel like commenting, feel free, and take care, everyone. Bye for now.